In a world where we live like today, it's hard to be African and it's hard to have this sort of skin color, if you get what I mean. All of the different isms, colorism, featureism, texturism, this ism, that ism, skin color, racism, like it's very hard to be black. Right? I hate to use the whole like white supremacy sort of like talking point, but like it is a real thing that really does affect us in our daily life. So I do have to acknowledge it. It's hard to live with that stuff, and honestly, I feel like it's almost dehumanized Africans in many different ways. But since we aren't victims, since I'm not really the type of person to throw like a pity show, I'm gonna try to give you some sort of mindset or way of looking at the world that sort of helps me as somebody who's grown up with like a lot of problems from the said issues that I just mentioned. So with that being said, let's get into it.
It's cause you is high, reckless had me crying. Ain't you by my side? No, I won't reply. Wrong time of the night, wrong time of the night, wrong time of the night. Talking like you ain't temporary, but I leave you behind. Laser over that sheet, oh, that ain't even mine. You was fake, I cut you off, and now you act surprised. Hurry, pick a side, don't want you on mine. Hang up, get in line, hating on me like I would never pay you mine. You ain't even shy, tryna waste my time. Gotta get my dime, bitch, get off my line. Hang up on you, bye.
Where you tryna go to shawty? I don't want them bitches. You like my dress, you say I look like Uzi. I may have been in the wrong, but I wanna be with you.
So if you're already familiar with my channel, you already know my story. You already know all the BS that I had to deal with growing up as just an African dark-skinned South Sudanese man. Like, I've had people shout at me in public for just being like super dark-skinned, saying, yelling, he's black as fuck. Like, but that was the one story I showed you guys, but there was multiple times that happened. I faced just racism from other black people, and like it's just, it's even crazy too, because I do feel like a lot of racism from that black people experience is pushed by the group, if that makes sense. Now the thing about these issues is that, like, although we don't really, I think we barely ever take the time to sort of realize how deeply this can like affect somebody's personal life. And I feel like this really expresses itself online in these spaces where we talk about African people, history, and everything. Where we have these conversations where we talk about our ethnic origins, our ethnic groups, and etc. Whether that comes to claiming ancient cultures of people that didn't really belong to you ethnically from a black African historical perspective, or if you're just jumping up and down because you have a little bit of non-African DNA, it really affects, stuff does carry a lot of weight in our mental spaces. And I can, again, like I said, I see it manifest in so many different areas. And a few months ago I was having a conversation with another creator, and the craziest thing, he said our job as like African history creators, almost in a way, is we're almost telling people, and I'm paraphrasing so don't quote me, but we're almost kind of telling people and comforting people that yes, you are human, yes, you do have something to be proud about, and yes, you're just as good as everybody else. And to have to tell that to somebody, to have to give a message like that to somebody, is very sad. But what exactly does that tell you about the way that they think of themselves and look at themselves? The fact that we have to be coddled and babied. And I kind of hate this culture of whenever I see like a video someone does on African history, and then everybody's in the comments like, this is the African history that we should be talking about, and not the Afrocentrism stuff. I almost feel like it ruins the whole purpose of it, which is just to almost treat us as equals, like we don't always need to be victims, or we don't always need to be like the underdog, if that makes sense. And I feel like during 2023, with the sort of downfall of Afrocentrism, at least from my perspective, right, the downfall of Black Egypt, right, that's when I stopped believing in it. It's so easy to be told by people who haven't had the struggles that you have had to face, to be proud of where you come from, to love your history, to love your people. But all the time you're being harassed for it. All the time people are always making fun of these jokes. It's not even just jokes, honestly. It just bleeds over into every single thing, where there's just almost disregard because of who you are. The fact that like I can just make a certain historical statement about something random in history, and somebody, probably not you, I hope it's not you, somebody would take that and view me as an Afrocentrist for it, just because I'm African or black, or because it sounds a certain way. And the thing is, as a history creator, or content creator, etc., right? I'm trying to blend this in with, obviously like self-improvement and, mindset and etc. But the thing about it is, one thing that makes you weak in this sort of area is that in this history space, I kind of noticed that we always are trying to live through the lives of dead people, the lives of our ancestors. We're always trying to relive the past and reclaim a glorious past. And the thing about it is that the past isn't good. The past isn't pretty. And I'm not saying that it's just for black people. The past isn't pretty for anybody. People do have their glory days, and people still do want to go back and relive those days. And it's not a bad thing to go back and look at those days where, your ethnic group, your people were doing good. But from like a fundamental level, there's so much wrong with it. Because you're almost romanticizing something from the past. And the thing is, like, you can't always keep living in the past, because you have a future, you have the present, you have the future and the present to worry about. The past does matter, but the past shouldn't be your everything, if that makes sense. And the thing is that's even more heartbreaking is, on top of us being alienated and isolated for just looking different, we're told that our past is very ugly. And the thing about it is, whether it was or wasn't, this is something that you cannot even control. And the thing that I really dislike about this whole entire space, is that I feel like everybody's a bit black-pilled. Everybody's very black-pilled. If you were born black, it's over. If you didn't have this history, if you didn't have a civilization to claim, if your country isn't relevant, it's over. And it's not even just the Eurocentric groups, or it's not just other opposing groups that think this way. Everybody thinks this way. If you told black people that Africa had no history, and it was a genuine fact, not saying that it is, but if let's just imagine a world where that is the case, you would think that everything is over. You would probably be thinking that there's nothing to live for, because we don't have we don't have any dusty buildings to worship or to glorify. We don't have any of that. And that right there, I feel like is the problem. It's not that we do have it. It's not that we don't have anything. It's the fact that I think you put too much weight on things that you just cannot control. I cannot control like anything about like where I come from, my history, my culture. There might be certain things that I'm just ashamed of in my culture. I can't control that. And I think when you do that to somebody and you put somebody in this box that they have to conform to, it sort of does something to them, because it almost removes agency from them. And the whole point that I'm trying to get here with like saying all these things is the point that a lot of people make to you, the point that a lot of people make to you, and the point that you make to yourself, the point that these Eurocentric groups even make to black people, is that since your ancestors weren't shit, you aren't shit, and you will never be shit because your ancestors weren't shit. And that's a terrible mindset. That's such a terrible way to look at the world. That's such a terrible way to look at history, because it doesn't. What sort of understanding do you even get from it? What sort of understanding, what sort of realizations, what do you even learn from history if it's always just this dick measuring contest? What do you get from learning about different people, history, and cultures when it's just figuring out who is the best of the best, who has the best this, who has the best that? You don't really get anything from it. And that's the big problem that I kind of notice with it, that I notice with everybody, everything. Everybody's working from this like kind of garbage framework. And if you're a Christian, you already know the man who builds his house on sand, when the tides come in, his house will fall and wash away. But the man who builds his house on solid rock, on a solid foundation, when the storms come, when the tide comes, I don't know which one it was, but his house will still be standing. And I think that right there is the sort of way you can, that right there, that's a realization that I think is it's gonna save you years of your life, honestly. I've cropped this video up because it's getting really dark, but honestly, I think when you just realize that you're a human, nothing more and nothing less. There's nothing wrong with celebrating your accomplishments and everything like that, and I think that is still very important. But when you realize that you're human and that nobody's really superior to you, doesn't matter, this whole superior race concept, it's all bullshit. You know it, I know it. Inferior race, that's also bullshit as well. You need to let go of that, and I think once you do, you'll be in a much better place. You won't find yourself coping as much. You won't find yourself trying to prove your self-worth through a comment section. Like those are the people who are in my comment section right now who probably disagreed with me about something that I said, and they're probably trying to type in like, be super mad, they might not be under this video, but you'll see them under my other videos when I was talking about last year about why the Egyptians aren't black. And you see, I'm not saying everybody was doing this, but a lot of people, you can kind of tell it was coming from like an insecure kind of spot, because me telling them that, yeah, you can't claim Egypt, that just took away their whole identity, their whole like feeling of purpose and meaning in life. And that right there, if something like that can be like changed, if that much of your own personal pride and your own personal achievements and etc. can be taken away by a simple claim like that, a simple statement, and you actually feel threatened by it. That is the problem right there, and that's what you need to address. So I hope this helps somebody. Peace. I hope the lighting was pretty good too, bro. It's pretty trash. It's like it's nighttime outside, you know. I was trying to find some good lighting. Only thing I have is this thing. But yeah. Anyways, till next time. Peace.